Tonight, we begin with a political earthquake that Republican insiders had feared, donors had whispered about, and Trump loyalists had dismissed as impossible. A betrayal that unfolded not over months, but in hours. Hours that shattered the illusion of unity. Hours that exposed the fractures in MAGA. Hours that may have ended the Trump presidency. What J.D. Vance did this morning crossed a line that the White House had hoped would hold. And when that line broke, the political establishment did not hesitate. They responded with relief, with calculation, and with opportunism. For 5 years now, there had been signals, not from official statements, not from press conferences, just signals that J.D. Vance was preparing something unprecedented. Vance has been loyal, yes, but he has been strategically loyal in his obedience. His moves have followed a certain rhythm, a discipline, almost a script. But what set off alarm bells in Washington this Saturday morning was that the rhythm went silent. Operatives who monitor Trump's inner circle know the indicators. The defensive tweets, the Sunday show bookings, the staged photo ops, the sudden radio silence from the VP, all of that went quiet. And whenever a Trump ally goes quiet, it means something is about to get loud. Early Saturday morning, Politico detected what they described as leaked audio from a private donor meeting, including specific criticisms that had not been voiced publicly in over 5 years. These are the kinds of statements that vice presidents only make when they are signaling something very specific, a break, a rebellion, or a coup. Political observers didn't know which category this fell into or whether it fell into all three at once. But what they did know was that Vance was changing posture. And when a sitting vice president shifts posture without explanation, even by this magnitude, Washington pays attention. The leaked audio released to major outlets tonight was not normal. It was not routine. It was not symbolic. It was explosive. Donor after donor described Vance's comments as unprecedented, calculated, and perhaps most importantly, coordinated with Silicon Valley backers who have lost faith in Trump. But political theater only works if the target hesitates. Trump did not. In fact, his response today was among the weakest we've seen in his political career. Here's what we know. Within hours of the leak breaking, Trump posted a defensive statement on Truth Social. This wasn't the vintage Trump fire. These were the words of a wounded leader, language that Trump only uses when he is preparing to lose control. Tonight, sources confirmed that Vance criticized the administration on 3 fronts, including the Holy Grace raid that had recently been defended by the White House for what analysts believe was purely political calculation. Vance condemned it before Trump could spin the narrative. He called it a mistake. He called it an operational failure. He called it the kind of tactical disaster that we're likely preparing to alienate the evangelical base. In other words, Vance targeted Trump's credibility, the foundation that would have made re-election operational. This is what made the leak so urgent. Vance's break wasn't just symbolic, it was actionable. It represented the kind of move that could fracture the administration if left unchecked. And Trump, understanding that fully, responded with panic. Not calmly, not strategically, but defensively. He didn't attack Vance directly. He didn't fire back with force. He blamed globalist donors. He questioned Vance's information. And here's where the story becomes even more dangerous. Political analysts now believe that Vance's latest move was designed to test the loyalty of the Republican establishment after Trump's catastrophic polling collapse. Vance wanted to see whether donors would continue backing Trump. But instead, the opposite happened. The mega donors didn't defend Trump. They rallied behind Vance with support that was so immediate, so coordinated, that even Trump's inner circle noticed. You don't get Trump's attention easily, but today, Vance did. Sources speaking with major outlets under anonymity described Vance's strategy as surgical, a way to preserve MAGA while removing Trump. But Trump proved today that he remains both isolated and weakened. His responses were not only desperate, they were inadequate so precisely that they confirmed his vulnerability. That timing matters because it shows Vance is not playing defense. It shows that Vance is not waiting for 2028. They are positioning for immediate succession. As reports continued coming in throughout the morning, we learned more about the scale of Vance's coordination. Peter Thiel carried out strategic conversations with key donors, forcing a recalculation of Trump's viability. Elon Musk targeted tech industry concerns that had been escalating in the last 6 weeks. Republican senators operating behind the scenes reportedly began floating the 25th Amendment used by the cabinet to remove an unfit president. This wasn't just political maneuvering. This wasn't just donor pressure. This was orchestrated betrayal. This was coordinated succession planning. And succession planning is the one thing Trump has struggled to prevent since taking office. For every loyalty oath he has demanded, Vance has positioned with something that undermines Trump's control. Remember, Trump thought Vance was controllable. They thought he was a grateful protege. They thought he would never break ranks publicly. But tonight, the exact opposite is happening. Vance is asserting independence. Vance is courting donors. Vance is positioning for power. What makes this moment so volatile and so historic is that Vance's latest move happened at a time when Trump is under unprecedented pressure. Evangelicals want apologies for the church raid. Donors want economic stability. Markets want policy coherence. Republicans want a path to the midterms. Trump is balancing these demands while watching his approval numbers crater. And when leaders in that position face internal rebellion, they're not doing it from strength. They're doing it from pressure. They're doing it from vulnerability. Trump's Truth Social post, now circulating through conservative media, was designed to signal that Trump is not willing to accept disloyalty. The statement said plainly that Vance's comments were influenced by globalist donors. That is defensive language for, I'm losing control and I'm panicking. You don't usually hear that tone from Trump unless something serious is at stake. Meanwhile, Vance addressed Ohio donors in a measured, defiant speech this morning. He said, "We can't defend the indefensible." He said, "I'm stepping in to clean up this mess." And he said, "If the current strategy is a suicide pact, I'm not signing it." These are not rhetorical flourishes. These are statements from a politician that understands just how high the stakes have become. Here's what makes the situation even more concerning. Vance's latest move wasn't isolated. Along with the leaked audio, the New York Times also published corroborating donor accounts. Politico ran simultaneous coverage. Silicon Valley insiders increased public criticism targeting Trump's economic policies. All of this happened within the same 24-hour period. When multiple outlets move stories at once, it means something larger is underway. Political strategists are now considering several possibilities. One is that Vance is preparing a gradual takeover of executive authority. Another is that Vance is attempting to force Trump into retirement. A third possibility, the one worrying Trump loyalists the most, is that Vance is attempting to invoke the 25th Amendment. But today, Vance took the first step. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't coordinate with Trump. They didn't seek approval. They acted independently. What we're watching now is a test of power. Vance wants to see if Trump can still command loyalty. Trump wants to show he remains in control. Republican leadership wants to prevent a midterm catastrophe. And donors want to prevent economic collapse. Tonight, we've heard from White House insiders who are now monitoring cabinet loyalty. They say Trump attempted to summon Vance to the Oval Office. They say Vance refused. And they say Vance's decision to stay in Ohio is likely part of a broader strategy intended to demonstrate independence. But Trump is not retaliating effectively. In fact, Trump is weakening. His response today, defensive, scattered, and reactive, sent a message to Vance that Trump is vulnerable. And it sent a message to the Republican establishment that Trump may not survive this. As the weekend goes on, we expect more details to emerge about what exactly Vance hoped to achieve. But what we do know is that Vance's timing was perfect. It exposed Trump's isolation. It galvanized donor support. And it positioned Vance as the adult in the room. What happens next will depend on what Trump does in the next 48 hours. If they escalate, this moment will be remembered as the beginning of the end. If they retreat, Vance has already shown they are ready to govern. They have shown they are ready to replace him. And tonight, for the first time in 5 years, Trump appears to be cornered. The White House is quiet, too quiet. And when Trump is quiet, it means he is calculating. It means they are choosing their next move carefully. Because tonight, Trump learned something for the first time. His vice president is not loyal. His donors are not with him. And his grip on power is slipping. This story is far from over. But tonight, one thing is clear. J.D. Vance just declared independence. The Republican establishment is watching, and Donald Trump is fighting for his political life. And we will be here, watching every detail as the next phase unfolds.